So after our first child was born, Terry and we had two miscarriages. It was really painful. The first miscarriage we had was on Christmas night. And if you haven't been through that, it's hard to explain how difficult and painful that loss really is. It totally threw me for a loop. I was angry at God. I was disappointed in him. I was angry at people who weren't as upset as I was. I didn't understand how anyone could experience joy when people like me were hurting so much. And I didn't know how I could ever feel joy ever again. But in the middle of all of that, I made this choice. I made a choice to stay connected to God and engaged with him. Now, here's the thing. It wasn't loving or tender, right? I decided I was going to stay engaged with him, but I was going to tell God what I really felt and what I was really going through. And I was angry at him. Guys, I cussed. I yelled. I told God how much doubt I had. I told him that I didn't understand. I told him that this wasn't fair. And on the back end, in all of this, he held on to me. You see, God wasn't put off by my anger or my language. He stayed right there in my unhappiness. And as he walked me through this time, I learned something. Happiness may be affected by what we're going through, but joy is on a different level. Joy isn't limited by our circumstances. Now look, even though I was grieving and I was sad and still a little angry in all of this, because I stayed connected to God, I began to experience God's joy again. And I'm not alone in this. Look at what Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 6:10. He says, our hearts ache, but we always have joy. Joy surpasses what we are going through because unlike happiness, joy isn't rooted in the circumstances we're going through or that we're facing. Joy is rooted in our eternal Heavenly Father who loves us and will never leave us. Now, my pain and my grief didn't go away, but it floated on top of this swelling wave of joy that God had provided me. And what could have sunk me, it actually served to remind me of God's love and faithfulness. He would never leave me or forsake me, that he will walk with me through the valley, that he will comfort and care for me. See, God's joy is available even when happiness seems impossible. Psalm 30:11 says this. It says, and this is to God, he says, God, you have turned my mourning into joyful dancing. You've taken away my clothes of mourning and you've clothed me with joy. Now look, I don't know what you are facing. I don't know what you're going through. But I know that you can know joy in the midst of it. Perhaps the greatest joy that we could ever know is in fact the joy that holds us up when our world is falling apart. So, if you are struggling right now, if that's you, do you have doubt and anger towards God because of what you're going through? That's okay. He can handle it. Just stay engaged and connected to him throughout. Stay engaged and connected to the source of joy. Don't run away. And see how his joy can help carry you through and above your hard times.